The rain had just stopped when three bikers pulled up at the edge of a small forgotten town. The streets were empty, the shop signs faded, and the air carried the smell of rust and silence. As they revved their engines down the muddy road, they spotted a little figure sitting near an old tea stall. A boy no older than 10, holding a small, rusted bicycle. His face was pale, his hair damp, and those eyes told a story far older than his years. He looked up at them with a trembling voice that carried through the misty air and said, "Buy my bike, sir. Please. Mommy hasn't eaten in 2 days." That single sentence hit harder than thunder. The bikers stopped. Their laughter died mid-breath. The engines went silent. And for a few seconds, even the wind seemed to hold its breath. If you believe kindness can change a life, if you believe everyone deserves a second chance, please take a moment right now to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Speaks. Your one act of compassion helps spread stories that remind the world that humanity still exists. The tallest of the bikers, Amir, removed his helmet and stared at the boy. His leather jacket was drenched, his boots covered in mud from the highway. But in that moment, none of that mattered. Something inside him shifted, a quiet, painful recognition. The boy's tiny hands were shaking, and the bike he was trying to sell wasn't even worth much. Its paint had peeled and one pedal was missing. Still, the way the boy clutched it told Amir this was not just metal and wheels. It was his last hope. The bikers parked their motorcycles and walked closer. Behind the boy, an old broken house leaned against time. The windows were cracked, the roof patched with plastic, and a weak light flickered inside. Amir noticed a woman through the window, thin, frail, sitting by a small candle, her face buried in her hands. The boy's words replayed in his mind, each one sharper than the last. "Mommy hasn't eaten in 2 days." The boy's name was Saad. He had once lived a life of normal dreams, a small school bag, friends, and a mother who worked at a tailor shop. But life, cruel and sudden, had taken everything from them. His father, a kind-hearted mechanic, had passed away in an accident 2 years ago, leaving them with debts they didn't even know existed. The owner of their rented home had thrown them out soon after, and from there, survival became a daily battle. His mother, Farah, tried everything, and sewing clothes, cleaning houses, even begging the landlord for time. But when the sewing machine broke, and illness took her strength, all that remained was her little boy and a rusted bicycle. That bike had been Saad's birthday gift from his father, and it was the only thing he ever owned that made him feel close to him. But hunger doesn't care about memories. It doesn't respect love or loss. It just consumes. For 2 days, Saad had watched his mother drink water instead of food. He had heard her stomach growl while she pretended she wasn't hungry. He had cried silently when she smiled and said she'd already eaten. So that morning, as dawn crept through their broken roof, Saad made a decision. He wiped his tears, took the bike his father had given him, and walked to the road. If selling it meant his mother could eat again, then that was what he would do. The bikers looked at each other. These men were not saints. They were a group known on social media for their highway rides, loud laughter, and reckless adventures. But beneath the tattoos and the noise, they carried scars too. Amir had lost his younger sister years ago to hunger and sickness, back when he was too poor to help. That wound never healed. It only slept quietly in his chest until moments like this woke it again. He knelt beside Saad and asked him softly why he was selling his bike. The boy, too innocent to hide pain, told him everything. His words were simple but hit with the weight of truth, the kind of truth that strips away pride and leaves only humanity. Amir stood up without saying a word and walked toward the broken house. Inside, Farah sat with eyes hollow from exhaustion. She tried to stand when she saw strangers entering but stumbled. Her cheeks were pale, her hands trembling. The bikers didn't speak. Instead, one of them, Bilal, placed a bag of food on the table, and another, Samir, lit the stove that hadn't been used in days. The aroma of cooking rice soon filled the air, a smell that brought tears to both mother and child. Farah cried silently, whispering thanks between sobs. She didn't ask who they were or why they were helping. She just clutched Saad's hand and kept saying, "You didn't have to sell your bike, my son." As the night deepened, the bikers listened to her story, how her husband's death had brought creditors, how people she once called friends turned their backs, how she'd gone from stitching clothes for others to wearing torn ones herself. It was a story far too common, yet every word carried the weight of countless others suffering in silence. Amir couldn't sleep that night. He stepped outside, sat on his bike, and stared at the stars. He realized something. They spent money on fuel for fun rides, on leather jackets, on things that didn't matter. But right here was a life that could change with just a fraction of that, and he knew what he had to do. The next morning, the bikers gathered the town. Using their online channel, they shared Saad's story. Within hours, donations began pouring in. People from other cities sent money, clothes, and food. Some offered jobs for Farah. What had begun as a quiet act of kindness turned into a movement. But what no one expected was what Amir did next. He took Saad's broken bicycle and restored it completely. The metal shone like new, painted the same shade of blue it once was when his father gave it to him. When Saad saw it, he cried. It wasn't just a bike anymore. It was hope made real. A reminder that good still existed in a world that often forgot compassion. Days turned into weeks. Farah regained her strength. She started sewing again. This time in a small shop the bikers helped her set up. Saad went back to school, proudly riding his blue bike each morning. The same people who once ignored them now waved when he passed by. For Amir and his friends, that one encounter changed everything. They began a new mission, riding from town to town, finding families who had lost hope and turning their pain into new beginnings. They called it Kindness Speaks on Wheels. Months later, on a warm afternoon, Amir returned to the same house. Farah greeted him with a smile that glowed with health and gratitude. Saad ran out with a school medal around his neck. "I won it for my essay, sir," he said proudly. "It was about you, and how you bought my bike but gave me back my dreams." Amir's eyes welled up. He patted the boy's head, knowing that in that single act of kindness, he had saved not just one life but his own soul too. So, if this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that even the smallest act of kindness can change someone's entire world, please like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to Kindness Speaks. Your engagement helps us tell more stories of hope, humanity, and second chances. Before